Yes. What's up, everybody?
There we go.
Talk to him, Jay.
Now you work it. What's up, everybody? So we're here Tuesday. It's relationships series. Like, share with your friends. Today, this is relationships. Ask a graduate.
Ask a graduate, because I just graduated.
You look like you just graduated.
Just kidding. I didn't just graduate. Angelique just graduated. Everybody say hi to Angelique. She is in the studio with us, clearly.
Yeah.
We even had to move some things around.
Move it around.
Feels much more legit.
Yeah.
Do we look legit? Jay's t-shirt looks legit. Let's talk about how legit his shirt is.
On camera, it looks like
Looks fantastic. It's actually one of those like 3D pictures. If you get real close to your screen and cross your eyes, you actually see an image. Put in the comment section what you see when you cross your eyes looking at Pastor Jay's shirt.
It looks really good, like when I put it on and look in the mirror, but I'm looking at it on camera and I feel like I just walked into like my grandmother's house.
What's up, Pastor Tinky?
What's up, Tinky?
She's saying hi.
How you doing? Yeah, let's go. So we want to have fun today. We're going to talk about a couple different things. One, we want to talk about how graduating in the middle of a pandemic is. So we're going to ask this young lady some questions and let her talk. Let her tell you what God is doing for her in this season. And I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
As a young woman, listen. I'm thinking, as a dad, like I have an 18-year-old, but I'm like, I had nothing to do with smart, lovely, beautiful.
That's true. And he's only this happy about it because Uncle Jesse carries a firearm. So her being 18 is not as dangerous or risky as other young adults.
Listen,
takes a village, people.
Her boyfriend pulled up to her party, and he got to meet some of my friends and stuff like that. So I think we're good. You ever seen Den of Thieves? Remember that one where he pulls him into the garage?
For those of you who are just coming in to watch the live stream, we're discussing how proud of Angelique we are graduating in the middle of a time that is globally and historically pretty unique. And so we're going to get going, have some good conversation. Angelique, how's it feel to be here right now?
Feels good. Feels good to be out the house.
Yeah.
Feels good to be out the house.
Can't go anywhere. Can't go to the movies.
That's
Don't want to
real.
go to the mall.
I'm trying to remember, like, what did we do when we graduated? We could just run around. Well, I'm from the Outer Banks, so I was just literally at the beach.
I don't know what you did when you graduated because you still looks like you need to graduate. But what I did was totally different.
There's hope for me, guys. Pray,
What I did
believe.
was totally different. So actually, after our graduation, like our school ended up renting out this place, and we actually had a party that we could stay all night and have fun. And so we just ran around. They had like this lock-in. We ran around with the people that we graduated with. We had a blast. We were dancing, and
That's awesome.
it was pretty cool.
It actually reminded me, we rented out the YMCA in Nag's Head. It's like brand new. It's massive. And me and my best friend, so I'm a twin. My best friend, he's a twin as well. But him and I got into what's that game where you're in the room? It's like all walls, and there's a ball and paddles.
Yeah.
I don't know, but we were just trying to smash each other with the ball at like 4:00 in the morning because it's just wall, so you could just throw it at a corner and it would just bounce all around.
It looks like
Wall ball.
something that
I think
you
it's
would-
called wall ball or something like that.
It might be. I feel like there's some more privileged name that people spend a lot of money to have access to this facility,
Wall
but
polo.
we had 24 hours to live it up, and we made the most of it, and clearly we survived.
Well, if you guys have questions for our graduate, we want you guys to go ahead and put them inside StreamYard. We're going to, inside Facebook, just in the comment sections, ask the questions. We're going to be asking her questions. Everybody say congratulations. I tell you what, I had nothing to do with it. So, graduating in the middle of a pandemic, how do you feel and how did you cope with, first of all, getting the information? I remember seeing like the emails and everything like that, and then we're all running to each other like, we're not going to have school no more.
Exactly.
Tell me about it. How did it feel that first time you heard that we're not going back to school?
Well, I want to backtrack a little bit because, there was word of the coronavirus going on and the school closing down. And I'm sitting in history class, and we're excited. We're like, yeah, we're about to get a week off of school. Yeah, we're about to get a week off of school. Just a week. We're about to be back. Next thing you know, you go home, and then you realize, like, that was probably my last AP Gov class. That was probably my last course
That sounds
class.
like a whim,
Yeah,
actually.
it seems like it, but, it's not. It's not.
It's not. Seems like it. No more
exactly,
school.
No more school.
Don't ask Uncle Jesse what's smart.
Right,
for your
everybody's
education.
excited. Everybody's excited. We're all like, oh, we're off of school. And then, 2 weeks hit, and we get an email where it's like, we're going to move to online school. That wasn't exactly exciting for me. I really don't like online school. It's really hard to keep up with. It's hard to get communication.
For the most part.
Yes, I very much am. So emailing teachers and waiting 3 days for them to get back when I'm so used to communicating with them was super hard for me. Thank you. So all of that going on was like, oh my goodness, I don't know how I'm going to get past this. Then, no school. It was more of a laugh so you don't cry kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, so now how are we going to graduate? We didn't know how we were going to graduate probably until a week or two before.
So that was a little scary.
Yeah, that was scary.
Yeah.
What your school career is going to look like.
Yeah, we didn't even know.
Right, especially when you want to go to college and you have all these other plans.
Yeah.
And did it feel like it was just like an abrupt halt to your life?
Almost, but at the same time, what was different for me was like, it was almost like God came in at the right time, because there was a lot of stuff with me coming back inside of my school. I missed a few deadlines for, extracurricular activities. So it's like all the things that I was sad about, they ended anyway. So it's like, oh, I wasn't in this play. There is no play. Oh, I wasn't in this chorus thing. There is no
We're
chorus
living
thing.
a drama right now.
Exactly. So it's like, it's almost like everything worked out for
Season
my heart.
5, episode 6.
Exactly.
This is the show that never ends, folks.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, oh, is everything going to open back up? Nope, it's not going to open back up.
No.
How was it like with all your friends? I know. So the audience, like, you guys don't know, but Angelique is one of the most amazing young humans I've ever met in my entire life. Most of the conversations that we have is she's trying to get wisdom or advice from us for all the people that are looking to her for wisdom and advice. A young superstar, a pastor's heart, prophet, incredible singer. And so I know without a doubt you had a lot of people looking to you as kind of like, what do we do? How are you feeling?
Yes.
How should I feel? What's happening?
Yes.
Put us there a little bit, because there's a lot of people that watching that really love the Lord, that have influence in their lives. And I want to see what it looked like for you, being conscious of who you are, carrying the Spirit of the Lord, where you are, especially in this time. How are you helping people navigate it?
I was trying to keep people as positive as they possibly could, because not only did I have to protect my heart, I also wanted to help them. And a lot of people don't know how to do that, protect their heart and go to somebody and give them all that they have.
What do you mean
so
by
that they can grow? So by protecting my heart, I have to set boundaries. So I don't want you every time, like, you text me and be like, I had a really sucky day. And then you text me tomorrow, I had a really, really bad day. And then you text me the next day, I had a really bad day. You kind of have to put a halt to those things where it's like, okay, well, what good thing happened? What's a positive thing you can look at? Because right now, I don't think any of us are having a good day. And I think it's being honest. I know. He tells me that all the time.
You say a lot nicer than I do.
I know, he does. And sometimes I even have to say it a lot nicer than that, because there's really sensitive people out there.
Right.
So it's people who might have been like, some friends who are in abusive households and they're stuck at home, and it's like, let me check on them because I know where they are. And, that's kind of something that you have to do.
Yeah.
Because you're like, you're stuck in the house with your parents now. Normally we would be in school and I could take you out of that moment for a little bit. We could go have a good time. We could laugh. We can joke. We can have real conversations like how we're having now.
Yeah.
But, there's just a point where, they can't get out of that. Yeah. And that's the part where you have to be understanding and say it in a nice way.
Yeah.
While also setting boundaries for yourself so you don't get hurt. Because if you're constantly trying to help other people, all of your energy's pouring in, you lose sight of God, you're not getting any energy from Him, you're not getting filled up by Him, and then next thing you know, you're sitting around like a dry raisin.
You just described most pastors.
Yeah,
most
exactly.
people in ministry.
Exactly. You have to stay connected.
Very, very applicable.
You have to
Exactly.
stay connected. That's really good. So what scriptures, what songs, what was the things that kept you connected to God during this time?
So because of all of everything going on and the uncertainty, I'm a very time-oriented person. I like to know what I'm doing. So it was more like I'm going, and I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where it's going to result to. So I would listen to Peace by Hillsong, the acoustic version, and it's actually spelled out P space E space A space C space E space.
Good one.
So that
So
song,
if you guys haven't heard it,
I would listen to it. It's an amazing
listen to
song.
it. Search it on YouTube,
yeah.
Google it, listen to Peace by Hillsong.
Yeah, and it's probably one of the best songs that helped me get through an anxiety-ridden time where it's like, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what the outcome of everything is, I don't know what time I'm going to go do something. Because if most of you guys know our graduation, we got our graduation date and time in the mail in the same week that we were graduating. And that for me is like, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Like with the
I have
last
to make
minute
plans. It's like last
out.
minute
Yeah.
finding out, trying to go through. And Peace was just a song that was like, it would wash over me. And it would become to a point where it's like, okay, I can finally relax. I can peace out a little bit.
Yeah.
That's what I call it, peace out.
We'll dig a little bit deeper there because as an 18-year-old experiencing a situation where you literally have no clue what's coming.
Right.
But trusting God, guys, this is universal truth, universal tools, and universal to being kids in the kingdom of God, living in a way where we're trusting God as our Father, where you don't know what's coming, you don't know what's happening. So this is has many applications. But Angelique, what really, like songs and stuff they're great.
Mm-hmm.
They really are. But generally, they're just reminding us or bringing us back to something else. So really dig down. What do you think it is? Like your solid anchor that helps you, like, you know what? It's going to be okay no matter what.
Talking
happens.
to God. That's probably one of the main things. Like I can read the Bible all I want. I can, sing all I want. But what really comes down to it is the connection that you have with God. Are you talking to him when you're feeling upset? Are you talking to Jesus? A lot of people want him to talk back, but a lot of times he just wants you to sit in a place and just be quiet and feel his presence. And then he begins to speak. And it's almost like, don't go searching for his presence because it's going to come. It's most just sit down, relax.
So do you
Give
mean
yourself
that
a moment.
your relationship with Jesus isn't based on a picture or an image of him?
Not at all.
It's built on a relationship.
Exactly. I don't care what Jesus looks like. As long as he's coming and he says he has my back like he does, and he comes and visits me, that's all I need. I don't need a picture. I don't need to know if he has blue eyes. I don't need to know if he has brown hair. I don't need to know his skin color. I don't need to know anything. Because why is my relationship with someone based off of what they look like?
Yeah. It's actually blazing light and glory. That just so happens to dumb down that glory so we can be present and make sense of it in our brains.
And what you guys probably don't know, that Angelique is such an activist, for injustice of all people. So tell us kind of like, now you're graduated, right? And what are your plans for your future?
I'm actually going to Regent, and that's exactly how it's spelled.
That's the song.
Yep.
Thanks, Kim.
Yep. Hello. Oh, that's Dad. So I'm going to Regent University, and right now I'm kind of figuring out how to do, entrepreneurial studies, theater, of course, because I love that, chorus, electives.
I just want to sing.
And most specifically, I really want to go into law school. And so there is where I want to kind of get to the point where I can learn about criminal injustices, criminals in general, learning why they do these things. What are ways that will get them out of jail and keep them out of jail, whether than going to jail on purpose sometimes, or, which is a problem in America, where people go to jail on purpose because they can get more inside of there than they can get from the outside.
It's a good alternative to poverty or abusive situations.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what she's doing, the injustice. And I'm like, sometimes I'm speechless. Like when I sit down and talk to you, I was talking to my dad while he was here visiting for your celebration and your graduation and stuff, because they actually had to come early because they had already taken the time off for what was supposed to be June 6th. you try to plan ahead, and then the pandemic
it
hits,
happens.
and then you have no plans. Like everybody's asking me, like, when's Angelique's graduation? I'm like,
you don't know.
Yes.
I'm asking you that question too. Like, can you please tell me?
Exactly.
But they came. They had a good time, and just seeing you walk across that stage, it was pretty cool to see that. And I know you actually were wondering, like, I don't really want to walk across the stage. I don't really want to get my diploma this way. Right. I want to do it a whole different way.
Yeah.
But how did you feel that day and after walking across that stage?
I was like, reality kind of hit me, smacked me in my face as soon as I put my cap and gown on. I was like, oh my God, I'm not. What the heck? I was like, oh my God.
Two hands.
It's getting really hot in here. Yeah, so that's kind of how it was. And then, you get to the school. It's kind of a quiet ride. It's a 5-minute drive, maybe less, to get to the school, just sitting there looking at the school, thinking, is this going to be my last time at the school? And even if it is, like, it's not like how it used to be. I'm not going to class. I'm coming there to say bye to all the people that I know. To say bye
that
to
you haven't even really seen.
Right, that I haven't even seen. And I don't get to watch my friends graduate. So, it's like, those were the downsides, but it had a really big upside. I didn't have to go to a big ceremony. I didn't have to wait to graduate. My name is Stallings.
Hey,
do you know how long I would have been sitting down?
My last name was Wood. Okay.
So we were all sitting in the same section.
Exactly.
I rewatched my graduation. I think it was in November. I was going through some keepsake stuff, and I literally had to go to like the last 5 minutes of the whole video.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't have to, and then it's also I'm in chorus, so we would have been singing the alma mater, and I would have been back and forth from my seat and my dress and my cap and gown, and I probably would have been sobbing. I got to miss the waterworks.
Yeah.
So it's like, it was almost bittersweet. That's what I could call it, because I never pictured myself graduating for some reason. I went to every graduation since freshman year, and I would sing with them, and I'd always be like, I just don't see myself doing this, but I know I'm going to graduate. It's not like I'm just going to fall off the face of the earth and never graduate.
You just never wanted to be in the ceremony.
I just never wanted to do the ceremony. And it's like, that's what I was talking about earlier when I said, all the things that I was upset about or sad about, they ended up not happening anyway. Right. Things that I was worried about, like, when did we get out of school? Do you guys know about the month that the pandemic started?
February?
Yeah, right around my birthday. So like March is when we got
it. February, right in March was when it started happening.
Yeah, so it's March.
Yeah.
It's
right
March.
Right after the Unite 2020.
Oh, that's right.
Right after that conference. That's when
with Danette Crawford, amazing conference.
Yeah, Joy Ministry. That was right after that it happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
So I was worried about things 2 months out.
Yeah.
And I was anxiety ridden over that. And it was like,
I can say that I can relate a little bit, only because when I graduated high school, I did graduate, folks. Not only that, but I graduated a semester early.
Oh, how did you do that?
Well, we can talk about that later, but move some stuff around. It was the country, y'all. So I was actually gone. So I graduated in North Carolina, and then in January, and moved all the way to Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, Virginia, to start establishing in-state residency in Virginia. So I graduated and moved 8 hours away.
Right after you graduated?
Right after I graduated, and came back for my graduation. So I hadn't seen anybody, I hadn't talked to them. Not only that, I had hit a growth spurt. So I came back taller.
When?
Than like...
When?
Because,
well, I was really tiny.
When you wear the same size clothes as Joshua.
Yeah, actually,
growth spurts.
I hit the men's section officially.
When you graduated high school, you no longer had to wear 14.
I stopped getting discounts on child-sized clothing.
Stop shopping at children's.
But yeah, it was interesting to come back and kind of seeing people for a couple days, and then being back in my other home.
Right.
So it was a little bit strange.
Yeah.
I feel like it wasn't the same lead up.
Listen, if you guys have any questions, just Just ask them, put them right here in the comment sections. We'll
This
see.
is my
them,
favorite one so far.
And then we'll do
Pastor Anthony Hart.
Pants. Pantalones. So just ask them. So
Michael Apker was in the front row seat. That's Becky.
yeah, let's go.
Guess where I sat? Yeah.
So now that you have graduated, I know you say you're going to Regent, you have and all this stuff, but what is God saying to you in this time? I know that you've seen a lot of stuff during this pandemic. You've seen, you fight for racial injustice. You post about it. You talk about the protests. You've always been like that. I mean, let me tell you, from elementary school, we would get calls from the principal talking about Angelique protesting stuff in class and stuff, and they were like, we're not mad at her or anything like that, but we can't have this. And she like, can't have what? This is my right to do. Mm-hmm. And so she's always been like that. I can remember times where the whole senior class and middle school, our 8th grade class, they end up wearing orange shirts because they felt like they were being treated like they were in prison, so they did a sit-in and
they were separating us.
So I mean, this is something that's right up your alley, injustice, and I've always told you that I got your back. Period. I'm dead. I got your back. So in this time, what are the things that God is telling you about the situations that are going on?
Calm down. A lot of the communication between people who are on both sides can't seem to even find a simple conclusion or agreement in their conversations because they're so angry at each other.
Yeah.
And we're angry at each other because we agree with things from the past. We agree from, so it's like, say Uncle Jesse comes to me and he's like, well, I really like the color blue because back in the day, blue stood for blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, I really like the color yellow because the color yellow stood as blah, blah, blah. But blue and yellow come together as green. There's always a middle space that you guys can come to.
That's good. There's always a middle space.
Always, every single time. I've never had a conversation with someone, unless they blocked me in the middle of our conversation, that we did not come to a conclusion of, well, I think we can both agree that this is wrong.
Yeah. Did you have better conversations with people over the phone or over text? Like I see a lot of times, like I'd be in a conversation with somebody over Facebook or over text, and I'm kind of the person that, like, I'd rather see you or talk to you.
Right.
I want to hear the inflections in your voice to see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Because a lot of things can be misconstrued.
Exactly. In text messages.
Yeah.
But actually, I honestly believe that in text messages, there's a lot of people who can't handle having a conversation with me because I am very confrontational. And
where do you get that from?
In my brain, it's like, if you come to me, you're ready for a conversation, then you're ready for a conversation.
Got you.
So whatever point I drill into, I hope you're ready for it. So it's almost like, okay, well, I'm going to drill in these points that I know. I hope you can drill in the points that you know.
Right.
And so that's what's the thing about coming to a conversation. Don't get so riled up and so upset. There's been times where I have to go talk to God after one of those conversations.
Of course.
Because I'm like, oh, heck no, I can't believe they said that. Things like that. So it's like, sometimes text message is just easier for me and for the other person because I could keep going, but the other person could get overstimulated and starts to get angry, starts to get mad. You can't have a conversation. It's one on top of the other, but with texting with this new generation, it's like, okay, let me take a break. Let me fact check what they said.
Yeah.
Instead, so it's almost like, I'm going to fact check what they said. Let me see. Google,
so it almost gives you more room and time.
More room and time.
To kind of let something sink in.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times it is pride that will hold us on to something.
Yeah.
And when somebody makes a point, we start out not wanting to be mad instead of starting the conversation with, you know what, I'm going to be open to what they have to say.
Right.
And I love that analogy that you gave about the colors, the red and blue, the blue and the yellow. They're beautiful by themselves. But together, in harmony, they can create something new.
Exactly.
And if we think that we all have, basic primary beliefs from how we come from in our culture, but it's those primary colors that come together to create all the rest.
Yeah.
So just like us three in a room can come up with a different idea than just any two of us.
Right.
Or any just one of us by ourselves.
And I feel like when like we all worked well together, we've done it for a while now. And it's because we all know each other's strengths and we're not going to go into somebody else's strength to be like, I know the best thing about this.
Yes.
When you're actually the person for that. You know what I
Yes.
mean? So I think knowing, having a relationship with people, right?
Yes.
And being willing to, if like, I don't understand cancel culture right now. Like,
Right.
I don't get it. Like, let's cancel everything.
Right.
Like, I get there are things that need to be removed, right? But I don't think that we should cancel everything. We all should be able to have an opinion.
Yeah.
My heart goes out to people's that opinions are different than mine,
Yes.
and they're being like dragged on the internet, and I see it all the time just for having a thought, like or not knowing, like, hey, I don't know, so I'm gonna ask this question, and then all of a sudden everybody jumps on that person. Like, for me, I'd rather have the conversation. Like, I'd rather you be curious about it and wanting to know where I come from with it. Like, hey, I don't understand this because this is the way that I think, right? Like, people don't know, like, some of the street stuff that I was involved in when I was younger.
There's just a lot of people that, and it's no fault of their own. Like, we all can't live everybody's life,
right?
Yeah.
And so there are things that we all come with knowledge and experience of that other people don't have.
Yeah.
So if we could just start out knowing that, and then also give people the room in time to grow. Like, you ever see those just add water toys?
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's like, it's already like maybe it's a little dinosaur.
Yeah.
And it's like this
Yeah.
big. You can already tell what it is. It has a
Yeah.
shape. It has a form. It's even kind of cool. But when you put it in water and they're like, put it in a bowl and then go away, let it sit.
Yeah.
And over time, it absorbs
Yeah.
and it grows. And sometimes we got to give people time to absorb
Yeah.
Yeah.
and grow.
Like I was just thinking, when you were talking about that, I was thinking about a sailboat. Like, I've never been on a sailboat. I don't know anything about a sailboat. So if somebody invited me to go on a sailboat, I'm like, oh, I want the experience to go on the sailboat, but don't ask me to do nothing.
If you have a sailboat, we're
Show me.
taking applications to go on a ride.
Show me how to do it, right? And so I think what happens is, in culture, especially as a Black man here in America, I've been talking about the racial injustice that has happened to me personally, what I've seen personally, and somebody then tells me that, oh, that doesn't happen. Like, whoa. So we can't say that it doesn't happen to people when we know it actually does.
You've never
It's
been
happened.
on that ride,
It's
never been
happened
in
for a long
that
time.
experience.
But I'm also not going to stay there. Right.
That's good.
I'm also not going to stay in a place of hurt, stay in a place of unforgiveness, because that's not what God asked us to do. As Christians, that's not his goal.
Yeah.
He wants us to stand up and fight for injustice, but he doesn't want us to stay in bitterness. He doesn't want us to stay in unforgiveness.
Yeah.
That's not what he's trying to do.
I think that's so good, because we're actually trying to get people to something. It's
Right.
not just fight in the ring. Like, clearly, when Jesus was here, he came and he had some bouts with religious people, with poor mindsets, and that baton was passed to Peter, and then Paul, and mindsets began to grow. Christianity was spread from the Jews to the Gentiles. So even at the start of the way is what it was actually called. Even at the start of Christianity, you know what it was? Those cultural and racial boundaries that had to shift in people's minds. So there is a time for that. But the point is, Jesus didn't come just to do that.
Right.
He came to release the hope of the world, the belief in him, salvation, eternal life. So where are we taking to? Not being afraid of, like when Peter stood, I think it was Cornelius's house, he even said, and I love Peter, he's such a knucklehead. And this is in Romans, I don't have the exact reference, but he's basically telling them, in my own words, you're welcome that I'm here, because my culture says I'm not allowed to be with people like you.
Mm-hmm.
But the Lord gave me a dream, and so I'm here, and blah, blah. And while he's jabbering on, the Lord's like, you know what? I'm done with you talking. Again, this is my own whatever. Take it loosely. But the Lord just hits all of Cornelius' house because of their hunger with the Holy Spirit. And then Peter's forced in his brain to now realize, you know what? God is not placing any limits on these people.
Right.
He wants them to have everything that we have Jews have had. And so now my job is to partner with what God is doing. And then he goes and baptizes them in water. And I think it's important to partner with what God is doing and really bringing unity in us breaking down the barriers
Yeah.
of really loving each other well.
Yeah, and what I would say is Jesus doesn't cancel people. Think of the time.
Whoa.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
He
say that
doesn't
again.
cancel people.
Woo.
And we're rising up with. There's 2 different generations in this room right now. There's me and there's you guys.
Well, 3.
Y'all are different, so 3. And so this is 3 generations trying to teach something to a congregation. So there's all of these generations rising up right now. There's new ones coming in, and they're all coming together. But all these generations have different beliefs, all grown up on different things.
Right.
Cancel culture is more my generation.
Right.
We started that. We saw that, we don't like you doing this. We don't like you doing that. So we're going to cut you off from this group to where we cut you off so bad you can't even learn nothing.
Right.
And, but it's like that because as a generation where we watched you guys try to fight and we watched you guys try to fight, now we're starting to get like, well, that never worked. That never worked. And so it's like, this is where it's important for me to be able to be like, yeah, I understand why you don't like cancel culture. I don't like it either, but this is how it originated. This is why it started.
Yeah, that makes
and then
sense.
you begin to have an understanding for that.
Yeah.
But, it's almost like somebody was being homophobic on TikTok. That's a big thing. That'll get you canceled up there because it's a big community for those kind of people. Right. And so they would go in and they would say something and they'd immediately be swiped right off the bat. But they wouldn't be able to get any knowledge from that because it's to the point where every comment is about what they're doing until most of the time they end up deleting their account. But imagine if Jesus would have did that to the woman who committed adultery.
Ooh. Say that.
So if he would have went there and said, you committed adultery and walked away, she wasn't going to learn from that mistake.
Mm-hmm.
She would have been dead, but she would never learn.
That's good.
Yeah.
She would never, if Jesus didn't go there and save her and protect her and show her love through her wrongdoings, she would have never learned a lesson.
Jesus doesn't cancel people.
Jesus doesn't cancel people.
That's so good.
He learns how to communicate with people. He went to the most evilest demon, the Legion.
Yeah.
And he spoke to that thing.
Yeah.
Now, think of the most worst person that you can't stand in your life, that you are really like, God help me before I choke them. Or, there's a lot of people like that.
It's like, come out, devil.
Come out.
There's a lot of people.
I believe in laying hands on the sick.
Exactly.
Let's go.
And Jesus was assertive.
Yeah, he was.
He wasn't somebody who was like, oh, can you please not do that? It's really hurting my feelings. He
That's
was
true.
like, no, come up out of that person.
Yeah.
Come up out of your ego. Come up out of your all of those things.
Yeah. So as you, I don't know if everybody knows, but Angelique is actually mixed.
Yes.
She's my first child, and as a mixed child, as somebody that has both sides, in you, how do
That's not why we put her in the middle.
How do you have those conversations with because you have white friends and you have black friends?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's really hard, actually. Growing up as a mixed kid, I always used to wonder, why am I a mixed kid? Because it sucks. You're living in 2 worlds where both don't accept you sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And as an activist, as a mixed person, it's like, I want to speak for the black race. I see what's going on. But then some of the black people don't view me as black. But then the white people will never view me as white. Never. Let's just get that straight. It'll never be that way because that used to be a law.
Wow.
That used to be, if your grandfather was any kind of black or your great-grandfather, you can't vote, you're black. I don't want to hear it. But then you go to the black side and you're like, I really want to fight for you guys. I see that my skin is lighter. I see that I might have a little bit more privilege than you. But they go to you and they're like, you can never understand what it's like. So it's hard. And then even growing up, it's people telling you, no, you're white. A lot of black people say, no, you're white. You're white. Your skin is light. You're white. I don't care. And then there's a lot of people that you go to where you're trying to speak to the white people and they're like, what's wrong with you? Aren't you supposed to be on our side? And you're like, it's confusing. Wow. It's very confusing. It's almost like half of you is literally split a lot. Yeah. That's what it feels like growing up being mixed, because you feel like you can't be accepted by either culture, but you want to engulf yourself in both of them.
Yeah. So how do you navigate that stuff for you personally? How do you navigate that? Because I know that there's probably somebody watching that is mixed or has mixed grandchildren or mixed children or is mixed themselves.
Yeah.
How do you navigate those things in a culture that is canceling
culture. Yeah.
Cancel
You're on your tippy toes, first of all.
Yeah.
As somebody who speaks to the youth a lot, you are on your tippy toes. Most of the time, I don't have to worry about it because I believe that everyone should be equal. You know, there's different things where you're a man. I can't do things that man can do. I'm a woman. You can't do things that I can do. So it's not like we're exactly equal, but we should have the same rights, the same things to do. If I wanted to try something you wanted to do, I should be able to try it. Vice versa.
Right.
So it's like one of those things where you just kind of have to tiptoe around, figure out where you're going. You're kind of walking on eggshells. Like, is this, if I go in this route, what am I going to learn from this? Is this going to be a bad thing? Is this going to be a good thing? It's almost like going too far right or too far left. You want to stay in the middle so you can learn both things.
Yeah.
And it's a big identity crisis, honestly. And I actually don't know where the identity crisis comes from, but I do know that with mixed people, it comes a lot. And I talk to a lot of my mixed friends. My best friend is mixed. Yeah. And we have to sit down sometimes and be like, I don't like when people call me white because I don't view myself as white, you know? So it's like those conversations where we're like, well, what about this side? Why do I have to be classified?
Yeah.
And it's also like, and it's not like, yeah, I'm a biracial kid, but don't call me that. Yeah. Because that's not how it feels.
Well, I understand that portion because when everybody says like, oh, he's a black man, I'm like, why can't I just be a man?
Yeah.
Right? Why do we always put a color on what somebody is?
Right.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Like, why can't we just be what we are?
Yeah. Right. Now, let's not get this confused with, I might step on some toes, but the whole Jesus doesn't see color thing.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I think he sees color.
If Jesus didn't see color, the Lord he would have made like an invisible rainbow, guys.
Yeah.
Let's just
And we were talking about
I think he just likes it.
Yeah, we were talking about how, you know, who is it, Paul?
Yes.
Yeah. He went there and he was like, this is against my culture, but I'm doing it. Peter, this is against my culture, but I'm doing it. Jesus saw that we have culture and skin because a lot of times our skin goes with our culture.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Every time our skin goes with our culture. So I wouldn't really view anything as race, but as culture. If you don't want to see color, if you say, oh, I don't want to see color, look at the culture. We all have culture. His culture of, you know, Black America, how they grew up, that's culture.
Yeah. And it's not really I was going to say it's not
Irishman culture.
I was going to say it's not your skin color that defines you, but mostly your experiences.
Exactly.
But because of racism, of bias, of prejudice, our skin color creates experiences.
Yes. Yeah.
But when I go into their home, I'm not thinking about that they're black or mixed. I'm thinking about how their home is. It's fun, like they're grilling out all the time. There's kids everywhere, which is fun. I'm never bored. There's always somebody to love on or give a hard time or chase or play with or talk to. Yeah. It's fun. It's a great culture.
Right. And I'm in my home, I'm creating a family culture, right? Where family is what we expect to be family, to be there for one another, to carry each other's burdens. You know what I mean? And so I teach my kids that way, you know, and I just think that it's a good thing to do. I think that we all need to take part in seeing the injustice when my boys say something like that to me is offensive towards somebody else. I check them. I said racism and sexism is the same thing to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's the exact same thing. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
Right. We're going to talk about it. You know what I mean? And so I think that is we create that culture. And I think what happens is in homes that we haven't talked about it enough. We haven't talked about the injustice. Yeah. Right. So every little black boy growing up learns, don't wear a hoodie. Mm-hmm. You can't walk around and run around by yourself at night. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know that for a fact because I was taught that. Right. I had to teach my boys that. There are things that culturally we have to teach our children. Right. And the thing about when people talk about white privilege, they're not trying to be racist when they say that. They're saying culturally, you have a privilege that my son or my daughter doesn't have because they were a different color. Right. Not because I'm biased against you. Right. You know, and I think a lot of people get offended because they have set up idols in their homes, right? Their own idols, their own statue, their own beliefs. And so outside of what they believe, there's nothing else, right? Like this thing that's going on now, people are talking about, oh, we should take down the pictures of Jesus, take down this, if it's a white Jesus and this and that. Well, I know that Jesus wasn't white.
I know he wasn't
right. But I also know that Jesus never wanted us to worship an image of him in the first place. He says in his word that the true worshipers worship in what? Spirit and in truth. That has nothing to do with an idol or an image. He does not care about any image that gets torn down of him, because he knows that he's in your heart.
He never said, thou shalt have a stained glass picture of me in white in your church.
And I think that we get,
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah. But I think that we get so caught up in things that we don't get caught up in him, right? Like I could say, like, you know what? I got this in Jerusalem. It is so anointed. But this can break.
Yeah.
This can break into pieces. He was broken for our pieces.
Yeah.
That's what we have to view. We have to stop viewing the things and view him.
Yeah, that's good. Jesus is so relational, and earlier, Angela,
he is so OCD. Watch this. He's gonna move that.
But when you were talking earlier about just the difference between man and woman, the word that came to me is partnership, and I immediately thought about the Garden of Eden, and that could have gone a few different ways. We don't think about Adam. We don't know how long Adam was walking with the Lord before Eve came along.
Yeah,
Eve came along with a whole different part to play. But they were built as partners, and they shared a rib. And scholars say that it was the rib that was the one that's closest to the heart, that protects the heart. And I think, we might not have all of the same things that everybody has, but if we can find what it is that's close to their heart, what it is their desires are, and say, let's partner together.
Right.
Adam and Eve, they probably didn't do the same things in the garden because there's a lot to do. Right. So if we can all partner together and think about how can we enable each other and give each other room to have the opportunities, the experiences, and all that everybody wants to have, then I think we no sooner better be an amazing humanity across the globe and just cross continent. What do you guys have that we need? And what do we have that you
I know Angelique has this story about a friend that they got in.
We got into it pretty bad.
Yeah. Over
bad.
some things. She was at a park.
Yeah, I was at a.
Tell the story. You don't have to say names.
Yeah,
just at a
I
park.
was at a park, and we're doing teenager stuff. We're literally just like, let's go to the park after dark. It's nice. We just got back from Olive Garden. I think it was I don't know, we were celebrating something I was doing. We all went to dinner, and we got back from Olive Garden. We went to Mount Trashmore, and she's like, yeah, we can be here.
I think
just
it was
stay
right
on the
after your
trail.
birthday.
Yeah, it was right after my birthday. Just stay on the trail. So we're like, okay, we can stay on the trail. I'm sitting there with my best friend Terrion. He's like a 6-foot black dude, and we're chilling. We're sitting on the sidewalk, and she's over there with her boyfriend, and I just see this bright white light just shining in my face. And, Terrion's like, should we run? I'm like, heck no, we shouldn't run. Do you see yourself? Sit down. I'll talk to him. So, me using the white privilege that I know I have, I'm still scared because I'm still a black. I have somebody that I care about with me who's black. And it's like, okay, you're not expecting this to happen because you think you're allowed to get here.
Right.
And then you see this bright light in your face coming around the corner. This cop car was zooming, so I'm like, oh, we must be in trouble. And then I look to see my best friend, my white best friend, and she's taken off. She's gone. She's gone. So it's just me and him there. And the cop comes up to us, the light in our face, and he's just like, why are you guys here? And I'm like, I'm here with a friend. I snitched. I sure did. I said they're over there. He was like, I said, what? I'm like, I'm here with a friend. She brought me here. Like, what? He's gonna ask me to walk me back to my car because I'm not supposed to be there anyway. So what's the point of getting caught up in that lie? I'm trying to be as honest as possible. So I'm just talking to him. He's like, yeah, you're not supposed to be here out at night. We actually got a call that there's some known pedophiles out here. So first you're trembling, and then you're like, okay, maybe they are trying to help us out a little bit. So then we go to the car. And I'm grabbing all my stuff because I'm like, I'm not riding home with her. She really just ran. Like, these cops didn't just pull up to us.
Right.
It's not like I don't have my best friend with me who's a black young man who was asking if he could run. You know what I'm saying? Because he's scared.
Right.
So it's like, and he wasn't even doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is the time for me to communicate with the police officers. Teach him how to communicate with the
police officers. So you communicate with the police officers.
Yeah.
And you communicate with your friend on the issue.
Yeah.
And then y'all stopped being friends for a while.
Oh, yeah, we did. Because she could not understand, like, one of the main things was that when I went to go reach in the car to grab my things, she screamed my name and was like, Angie, get back! Now, there's police officers right here helping me get my stuff with their flashlight. With, you know, how they like to hold their arm on their little belt.
Yeah.
And you have your other white friend talking about some Angie, get back. I can't see, so I don't know what the problem is. And then she goes, yeah, officer, I forgot. There's a hatchet in my thing. And everybody was like...
So, but now, I mean, like, after
like, that was a hard thing to have a conversation about, because it's like, this is why you can't do things like that.
And so now, she didn't understand that for a long time, but I know recently
she contacted me.
And
she was like, I'm so sorry, you know, like...
She didn't see it.
Yeah, like, she didn't really see what was going on. She didn't understand until now. She didn't understand the fear that you get until now.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I grew up... I remember the first time that I really saw racial injustice, and it was actually the video of Philando Castile being shot. That was... I walked into the living room in Texas. I was visiting... You know, didn't even have my dad around me. You know, I had my grandpa and my grandma, but that's different. You know, and I'm watching somebody who really, honestly, like I said, looks like my dad get shot to the ground with his hands being up. And it's like, what is happening? A lot of things circulate in your head, you know, and a lot of the battle, I do believe, with Black people is trying not to find that hatred for a whole race, vice versa.
Right.
You see that, you know, they grow up learning this and how, you know, white people grow up learning about Blacks differently than Blacks learning about Blacks. We grow up differently about learning about whites. Like,
and I think
you don't understand a lot.
I think that's why sometimes when I read statements from Christians calling people animals,
right,
and things like that, it discourages me because I know that's how we were viewed. I've talked to my dad plenty of times. He grew up in Delaware. Right outside, pretty close to Philly, but then his whole family's from North Carolina, so he would go down in the summer times and visit North Carolina, and he would see young boys call his dad by his first name or call him outside of his name like boy and things like that as a grown man. And it was because we weren't viewed as regular human beings. Our brains weren't big enough to be able to read or to be able to write. And so I think that's what people are talking about. The systematic racism that has been in America has been in here for a long time. And for somebody to tell me that there is not racism in America, that means that you have your eyes closed to the problems that are going on. And if you believe that I'm your brother in Christ and that you love me, and I'm telling you right now that these things are going on, you're like, no, it doesn't happen. And I think that's probably the most thing that I'm surprised about, is that people actually believe that the things that are happening are not happening.
Not only that, one of the things that frustrates me the most, I think, is when people look at symptoms of past racism as their reasons to be racist or biased or prejudiced.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can't call out a symptom like, let's take Black people are less educated. Last year, actually this time, I was in a small town called Dyersburg, Tennessee, and I was taken to inside this little town to the first high school that was created for Blacks to go and get a high school education.
Wow. It
was created at the end of the 1800s, but even still, it was small then. And they had a whole, they had taken an old classroom. It's not used now, of course. They basically turned it into a museum and a community center. And so I was able to go through this museum and see like class after class, which is only a handful of Black people who were actually getting a high school education. Why was that? Because of racism. So when we as a white race create issues through racism that that then reciprocate, like restricting education, and then trying to say, well, I can be biased and prejudiced because Black people are less educated. No, but when you're the reason, that's a symptom, we need to apologize and go back and go, how can we make sure everybody's getting the same opportunities, the same abilities? And as Christians, we ought to all
right? But do you see what had to happen for those possibilities?
A lot had to happen.
Like, and that's what I tell my boys. I'm like, people fought to be able to read, to be able to write, to be able to go to school and get an education. You can't be lazy with what hasn't been afforded to you that wasn't afforded to other people.
I think a good way we could put that is we had to fight in the first place to even be able to communicate with another race. And I think if we hit that point, if Dad were to go out and whistle at a white woman in the 1800s, he wouldn't be a person anymore. It's just, it wasn't allowed. We had to fight for even the ability to speak to somebody outside of our race.
Yeah.
And I think that people think that it was so far back that it was okay, but it doesn't feel so far back to us.
Not when I could talk to my dad and he could tell me stories about
that.
Yeah. And it's not that far back.
And actually, when I was in Dyersburg, I guess it was so oppressed racially that my friend is a Black pastor who brought me there to do some ministry. He said, you're going to run into some older people here that probably won't look you in the eyes because it's still fresh, guys. Like, no matter what you think you see in the textbooks and what people tell you because of this law happened when, it doesn't mean it still wasn't happening in cultures. And it honestly was breaking my heart and blowing my mind because I just didn't know.
Yeah.
And I was literally trying to think, like, Lord, I'm going to need your help to create invitations for interaction. Right. And we had some amazing times, but there was a real barrier, guys. It really took the Holy Spirit and all of the intention and the desire to want to connect. It was not easy. It was uncomfortable, but what happened was amazing.
Yeah,
it really was.
I think it is when I've learned of when I actually approach the very things that I'm afraid of, it probably normally comes out way better than just leaving it there.
That's true.
Right? Like, approach it, attack it. Like,
facing
I'm gonna, when I've had conversations with people that I didn't agree with, those conversations end up being really good because I got other perspectives.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And so a little bit of that blue and yellow makes green.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to challenge you guys to do that. Challenge you guys to have conversations with people that don't agree with you.
Yeah. That is a really big thing. I actually, that's one of my favorite things to do. I don't want to get on Facebook.
She ain't scared.
No, I don't want to get on Facebook and be like, fighting with somebody who believes the same things as me. That's when a lot of the times I leave a comment alone. Like, they're one thing off. They're learning. These people are learning. You have to remember that. These people are learning. There's people that I've met who would call me an animal back then who won't call me that now because I went to them with love and compassion. Yeah. And it's hard to do that when you know somebody doesn't like you when you didn't do anything.
When you're offended, when that person's offended,
that's really hard.
And they're not giving you any reason to want to be loving towards them, but you still start out that
and
way.
you can feel it. When you go to certain areas, you know that there's a lot of people who won't welcome you. And I think I realized that the most when I actually went on the truck with my grandma for 3 weeks. We were up north, and that was probably worse than any place down south that I've ever been, if I'm being honest, because we would stop places and the looks that I would get. It's different when you walk in with your grandma, and then next thing you know, they see the little mixed girl walking behind her, and they're like, and so a lot of people in the gas stations would be looking. A lot of people while I'm trying to order food will be looking. A lot of the gas clerks had attitudes. They wouldn't let us do, they would be down to getting in the shower. They were funny about it. They'll be like, I'll see if I can call you if I'm not busy. Wow. And when somebody does that and you're on a truck trying to take a shower, you're getting mad. You're getting upset. I'm getting upset. I'm trying to bite my tongue. I'm trying to not say anything. I don't want us to be in danger. they're talking to my grandma that way.
Right, and
Everybody
you
knows
want to be
I'm
like,
protective
oh,
over
no,
her.
you ain't gonna talk to grandma
Exactly.
like that.
I
You
like
better
to tell
not talk
her,
to my mama like that.
I tell her she thinks she's protective over me, but little does she know.
Yeah.
When people talk to her,
Come
so
running from
that was
house.
hard for me. That was hard for me, and it was
Yeah.
learning like bite your tongue, treat them with respect.
Yeah.
You'll get it back eventually, and
Yeah.
that's a hard thing to do.
That's a hard thing to do, and I think that's what's really important is knowing what the Holy Spirit is saying. Okay,
right.
because there are moments where God says, I want you to say something," and there's
Mm-hmm.
moments where He says, "I don't want you to say anything. I want you to close your mouth."
Mm-hmm.
Jesus went through the whole crucifixion,
Mm-hmm.
not whining about it.
Yeah.
It was hard, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't stand up for injustice.
Yeah.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that we have a cross to bear.
Mm-hmm.
As Christians, we have a cross to bear.
Mm-hmm.
We are supposed to love the unlovable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference. That's the difference when you see activisms fighting who aren't Christians versus me fighting.
Right.
You'll see me be able to communicate efficiently.
Yeah.
A lot of times they can't do that because they weren't learned the foundation of you need to love everybody.
Yeah.
That's what
Everybody.
Christianity is
Yeah.
about.
You can't have segregation and equality at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was even beautiful about Jesus' death is that he was so quiet, he was so silent, but the moment that he screamed and then died, and his spirit was released, what happened in the atmosphere at his moment of death made the religious people go like, "Whoa, something's different here." And then when the angel came and broke Jesus out, and when he resurrected and disappeared, and then those soldiers went to the officials and they said they actually paid them and told them, "Don't tell anybody because they're going to know, people are going to find out that he was actually telling the truth." So sometimes it might feel like loving others is dying a little bit. But sometimes it's that death and other people like trying to fight you and get something out of you and you not responding is what actually shifts things in their heart. We've got some people really chiming in here.
Yeah.
I know we've been taking you guys on a ride today for a while, but we appreciate you hanging in there with us. Rafi says, "What an amazing discussion today, church family. Y'all hit the nail on the head and have put things into perspective for me. God is able." Thank you so much for your compliments. Pastor Anthony says, "The spirit of life that dwells within us will bring life into our conversations and relationships if we don't let emotions silence them."
Ooh, that's a good
That's
one.
good. Don't
Yes.
let that's like what
Ooh,
our
come
friend
on,
always
Anthony.
says, emotions are like children. You can't
Yeah.
let them drive and
Yeah,
you can't put them in the trunk.
Yeah. And I'm gonna tell you guys, I'm gonna have Angelique pray for their education and their further advancement in education and further advancement in life isn't squashed by what's going on in this
It's not canceled.
pandemic, right?
Yeah.
It is not canceled.
Humanity is not canceled, guys.
We're not canceled. Listen, and as Christians, we cannot cancel other people just because we disagree with them.
Right.
We are taught to love them, and I'm not saying that people shouldn't go to churches where they have racists in the pastoral seats. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we need to love Jesus more than we love churches.
Yeah.
That might hurt somebody's feelings.
And one another.
Yeah.
More than all the things inside the church.
Yes. Right? Because I find it odd when people are worried about the statues and say this is history, but then when I see other posts about history of slavery, they say that that's divisive. But the statues that are hanging up about Confederate is not divisive.
And the Bible is,
and I'm not saying one another. I'm just saying you can't have one without the other. If you want history to be told, let history be told. Don't be sad about the history that gets told.
Right. And the deal is too, the Bible talks about how as brothers and sisters, as siblings in Christ, we ought to restrict ourselves when our convictions might be different than someone else, but it is a stumbling block for other people. So you know what? Maybe I'm okay with certain things still happening or being how they are, but if it's hindering someone else's or our ability to really converse, talk about their relationship with the Lord and where they are and what he's doing in their life, you know what? Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? Throw stuff out the window that's gonna fall apart, fall to dust, fade away, and so we can talk about things that are eternal and really matter with people. Let's keep those doors open and not shut them to keep doors open for things that, guys, really don't matter at the end of the day.
And I tell you what, man, I'll probably get into conversations with people, and I might offend you. You might offend me.
We offend each other.
But I'm not going to cancel you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's the thing. The whole point of having the conversation is so that we can find some type of ground to join in and say, I might not agree with somebody that's Muslim, right? And in the way that they think about their religious beliefs, right? But if he's picking up trash in a neighborhood, I can join with him.
Right. We can partner
and pick up trash
and
in the
love
neighborhood.
People,
right? Because we can unify in what? The love of the people.
Come on.
Right? And if Jesus is calling us sons and daughters, if he's calling us friend, then that means that everybody else is my
We've
friend.
got to call them.
They're my brothers, they're my sisters,
Come on.
they are my friends. And even if they're wrong, they are my friends.
Yeah.
They are my brother, they are my sister, they are my friends.
And the ones that are wrong and hurting and broken, deceived, they need us the most. They need our time the most, guys. They really do.
So we're gonna let Angelique pray. Do you have any last, why don't you say whatever your last comments, your last thoughts are, and then pray for culture, pray for this time, pray for the kids that are graduating, and release the word of God that you're hearing.
Yeah, so one of the verses actually 48 weeks ago that I remembered that I had in my highlights, I was looking through it, and it's from Titus. I was reading English Standard Version. And it says, as for a person who stirs up division after warning him once and then twice, have nothing more to do with him. Knowing that such a person is warped and sinful, he is self-condemned. So a lot of the times we keep fighting and fighting towards the same person because we don't agree with them. And a lot of the times, looking at this is commenting back and forth with someone who you know is still going to have the same mindset no matter what you do.
Yeah.
Leave it alone. Because he is self-condemned. That condemnation, that all of this conviction, it's going to hit them eventually. Because you planted a seed. And you have to remember the seeds that you plant, but what kind of seed did you plant into them while you were commenting back?
That's good. Is it something the Holy Spirit can work with?
Exactly. Or is it something that will twist and warp even more of what you had?
So what you're saying is that we're responsible for our own thoughts and the way that we treat people.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Good.
And that's why I said when I speak to people, it's not out of a place of anger. They might have made me mad, but a lot of the times I'm like, this is a comment. It'll be here as long as I need it to. Let me come back because these are sensitive topics that are coming out to light right now out of nowhere, and they're all coming out once. Woman, men, female, all that black and white, homophobic, not homophobic, slavery, no slavery, statue, no statue. All of these things are...
Flag, no flag.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a lot of things right now, and a lot of these things are personal. So while you were talking about how he took the rib closest to the heart, we as men and women who know each other, who all come from the same person, God, are we getting close to their heart in order to hurt them? Or are we getting close to their heart in order to cultivate them? And I have another verse where it talks about iron sharpening iron.
Yeah.
So I just want us to think about that as a community.
Yeah.
Because you have the option, no matter what you do, to get close to someone's heart, whether they're racist or not. Because I've gotten close to a racist heart. I have. So are you getting close to their heart for an ill will thing so you can spite them and tell them how wrong they are? Or are you trying to get them to learn? There's a difference.
There's a difference. Well, why don't you pray us out, Angelique? Go ahead.
God, I just pray, honestly, for just a peace to wash over everyone during these hard times.
Yes, Jesus.
And while the pandemic is going on and we're still learning how to open up and do new things, that the anxiety that comes with all these things and the plans that we had will just fall into line naturally. So we don't have to worry about it. And I thank you for, a knowledge to just sweep over the land, towards everybody. Not a biased one, but just something that's right, that we all know, that we can cling on to, that, just gives us, an amazing view where we can all come together as one. And, letting the word do that too.
Yes.
Letting the word come, special verses that we didn't ever realize or that we might have skipped over, to just place into our hearts, to go read, to meditate on, to talk to you about. And I just pray that we all learn how to respect our boundaries and cultures and lines and knowledge and all of these things, because I believe that's a big part right now. And I just pray that you come and you rest on everyone's shoulders and you give us peace. In Jesus' name, amen.
Yeah, amen. Well, we love you guys. 2020 graduates, we're so proud of you. Listen, drive-in service will happen this Sunday at 10:30 in our Portsmouth campus. That's 3935 Twin Pines, okay? Portsmouth, Virginia. We want to see you there. We want you guys to beep your horns and make some noise, all right? We had a good time last time. We had a blast. Like I said, 3935 Twin Pines, Portsmouth, Virginia, Parkway Christian Center in Portsmouth. Drive-through service. We love you guys. We will see you there. Thank you, Angelique, for being here.
Tell her how much you appreciate it.
Why I have such a smile on my face. I got one out and they're good.
The best part is when all three of us go somewhere and she looks like the mixture of us. We get the best looks. People are like, I'm so lost. And she calls us both dad.
Hey, Dad, Uncle Jesse.
All right. We love you guys. We'll see you later.
Yeah. You're awesome. This is going to be that awkward part where I end it while I'm still staring at the camera. So just keep waving. We love you. It feels like Independence Day when we're